You ever gotten so drunk that you said a Luke Bryan song actually wasn't that bad?
Luke Bryan has to be the most divisive singer from the bro country era.
And the term knockin' boots has been around forever. But in 2020, you decide to write a song called Knockin' Boots?
Some of his fans would call the hatred and criticism directed at him unfair, but the question is that why exactly does he get more hate than others? He wasn't the only one singing about pickup trucks, girls, and beer, and he wasn't the worst of the lot, to be quite frank, musically speaking. The reason he gets the hate goes beyond his music. After all, the man did do a clean sweep at the ACMs just a couple of years after getting his first break. And even if you think that awards don't mean much, even those who hate bro country will agree that he has done some good work as well. He just lacked consistency with his music, so much so that there's a discussion on Reddit calling him the Adam Sandler of country music. As the post says, he makes crap way too often, but when he wants to hit hard, he hits harder than most artists. He would go from songs like this to something like this. Leaving fans confused on what to make of his work. Songs like Drink a Beer, written by Chris Stapleton, would make you want to like him as a singer. But then there's a long list of songs that just wouldn't go down well with those who have grown up listening to country music of the 90s or before. To them, his music was more pop or rock than country. So why does he get more hate than any other bro country singers? I went searching for it on discussion forums and media stories, starting from the early 2010s. And the answer lies not in his music, but his actions and words beyond that. The criticism of his music spiked up every time he got into some sort of controversy, starting off with him singing the national anthem. No, not this one, at the Super Bowl. In true Adam Sandler fashion, that's the good version of it. But then there's also this.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
He turned into a meme after his 2012 performance at the MLB All-Star Game. Fans watching that game noticed that he had been checking the lyrics on his hand as he sang and were not happy. Bryan apologized at the time and explained to Rolling Stone later on that I had just written down streaming and gleaming because for some reason during rehearsals I kept jumbling those up. Then I started psyching myself out on it. I thought I did a great job on the anthem, but the unfortunate thing was people saw me checking those two words. The criticism for his national anthem gaffe soon spilled over to his music, but maybe things would have been different if he had learned his lessons on managing media and social media better. Just 3 years later, in 2015, he came under fire once again. Speaking to Hits Daily Double, this is what Bryan had to say about the evolution of country music. Well, yeah, I think that people who want Merle, Willie, and Waylon just need to buy Merle, Willie, and Waylon. So I've never been a those were the good old days kind of guy. I'm not big on looking back on the past. I'm not an outlaw country singer. I don't do cocaine and run around, so I'm not going to sing outlaw country. I like to hunt, fish, ride around on my farm, build a big bonfire and drink some beers, and that's what I sing about. It's what I know. I don't know about laying in the gutter strung out on drugs. I don't really want to do that. Instead of showing respect for the roots of country music that had given him the platform to earn millions of dollars, he reduced outlaw music to laying in the gutter, strung out on drugs, missing the point that being an outlaw was about being yourself, insisting on having creative control of your music. What made things worse was Bryan referring to himself in the third person when he said, "There's plenty of room for people to like Luke Bryan, Eric Church, Jason Aldean." Bryan just went from being ignorant to arrogant, and incidents like this just added to the perception around him being too high-headed.
No one has drank more liquor. No one has vomited more. No one has taken more drugs. No one has taken more IVs. No one has passed more STD tests than this next gentleman, ladies and gentlemen. He has got a clean bill. He does not have diseases. Give it up for Dustin Lynch!
Bryan received criticism from fans for his sarcastic introduction of Dustin Lynch at a concert. He had to issue a public apology to those who were offended by his introduction, which included jokes about Lynch taking STD tests and partaking in drugs and alcohol.
Just saw where people are starting to chat about my introduction of Dustin Lynch. Dustin Lynch is one of my dearest friends on the planet. No one respects him more than I do. And that night at Playa, Sunday night, last night, I get everybody out, and my introduction of him was complete sarcasm. Those words that I used were so absurd, I figured everybody would take it as sarcasm. Obviously, some people didn't.
But this wasn't the only time he got called out for being arrogant. Late last year, he made the unwise choice of feuding with a critic on Twitter. A critic questioned in the review of Bryan's latest concert whether he has peaked and whether country fans are more interested in new names like the new Luke or the new Bryan. For some reason known only to him, Luke decided to respond with this. "I've never received one positive review from y'all's publication since I've been to the Twin Cities area in my whole career. The trend continues. The sold-out crowd had a great time, but there was one problem. He forgot to do his fact check." The critic wrote back with a list of his earlier reviews on Bryan, which were far more favorable. You would think that Luke would stop here, but when the website posted this article, Luke responded with, "You can kiss my ass too." One can argue whether the criticism he received was fair or not, since a 47-year-old Luke cannot match the energy of him in his 30s. But clearly he needs a better PR manager to help him avoid more disasters with the media. All these incidents have rubbed off on how fans see his work as a musician, from forgetting the national anthem to disrespecting outlaw music. Every time Bryan came under criticism for his actions or words, his music also came under criticism. Even his stint as an American Idol judge put a target on his back.
Like, I wasn't prepared for the fans to get so mad at me for people that we send home, but we have to send somebody home.
He is given the job to judge upcoming talent and select the best, and that would mean that he might reject some singers who others thought deserved to be on the show. Bryan becomes an easy target for the fans of the show who are upset with one of their favorites getting rejected. But that's what Bryan signed up for when he took up this gig. Coming back to his music, I think the issue is that country fans feel he portrays himself as a country artist. But to them, he is more of a talented rock or pop artist who wears jeans and occasionally a cowboy hat. Bryan has minted 30 #1 singles in his career, and whether you like him or not, you cannot deny that he has a huge fan following. Most singers in this position would have to make a choice. When you start filling up stadiums and have fans from teenage boys to middle-aged women, you will have to compromise to fill the seats and keep the lyrics simpler to appeal to a larger audience. It becomes less about music and more about the economics behind music, unless and until you are George Strait, who can stay true to his music and still fill up a 100,000 capacity stadium. But there can only be one king. Do you agree with the criticism Bryan receives, or do you think fans and media are unfair to him? Let us know in comments. And please do hit the like and subscribe buttons before you go.